Hello and welcome to the Manchester is Red podcast. My name is Steven Railston. I'm back again hosting, and it's another double-hander, but Samuel Luckhurst is away on holiday and our colleague Tyrone's still away, so we've got the pleasure of me and Rich Fay today for the next 45 minutes or so, analysing the weekend's results. Obviously a defeat for Manchester United in the first ever Manchester derby in the FA Cup final, 2-1 in the end. Very disappointing result at the end of the season. We'll get stuck into that and what it means really in this podcast. But to begin with, Rich was obviously down at Wembley in the press box. And Rich, it was a really sunny day, but I guess I share about the result, but a pleasant day nonetheless, weather-wise.
Yeah, you're saying that. It seems like everyone over the news had a holiday at the moment. When are you going to be jetting off and getting some time off? Because I think you're long overdue, aren't you? You're the only one who's
Well,
on this podcast
Love
every
Island
week.
starts tonight, Rich. So,
Okay.
and I've
Watch
got
this
time.
space.
Yes, I've got time off coinciding very soon. So just watch
Casa Amor, yeah?
ITV two,
Okay.
9 o'clock around a week's time. Just watch out for that because I'll be on. But as long as you vote for us, Rich, and producer Sam, I'll be very grateful. I'll be very grateful.
I'll be
But,
voting to get you off. We need you to be hosting the pods. But yeah, I mean, Wembley weekend was... It was quite a joyous occasion, really. I don't think anyone knew what to expect pre-match. You know, there's all the disruption with the travel. Of course, that's I support the rail workers having that strike, so I'm not going to be trying to throw them under the bus or under the train in this case. And I think as well in terms of there was concerns that there would be maybe violence. Obviously, there were a couple of ugly scenes, a couple of bad news stories we don't really want to get into from the weekend. But in terms of what actually happened on Wembley Way and from what I saw travelling on the tube to the match, it was quite good natured. You know, I loathe to use the word banter, but there was that sort of back and forth, the repartee between blues and reds. And it was just a sort of maybe not a celebration of both teams' seasons, but United went there with, maybe not much belief, but still a hope of winning it. And City there, of course, had more reason to believe, and in the end, it turned out. But it was quite a good occasion, really, as a spectacle for the final. It was an interesting game. I think it was probably the result and the outcome that was maybe the most boring prediction. I think deep down, everyone sort of expected it to be the way it was, and always try to play devil's advocate and say United could win it. We saw in January how good they were, but it sort of just panned out exactly how you would have guessed, really.
well, they had to make a good start, didn't they? I think that's what we all felt going into the game before. If they're going to get something, they have to make simply don't concede early doors, keep it tight, and then to go in and was it 12 seconds? I can't remember the exact how many it was, but Gundogan obviously scores that goal. A fantastic finish, a world class finish, but it shouldn't be happening. The ball shouldn't have bounced to begin with, and I guess it's a game of fine margins. Obviously, United did very well to get back into the game. Fernandes was so composed and the pressure wasn't to put it away. We'll come on to the penalty in a second. It probably wasn't a penalty. Well, according to the laws, it was, but they're a bit stupid, aren't they? And obviously City come out in the second half. Gundogan scores again, gets his brace, and it's a game of fine margins. Finals can be decided on moments like that. And I guess, Rich, David De Gea, we're here again on a podcast on another Monday dissecting it. And it's another mistake, it's another blunder from the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, you think United have turned a corner and they end up going around in circles again. We just discuss the same players every single week. And I think that'll be the case as well next season if De Gea remains. He's a keeper who will always grab the headlines for sort of unbelievable saves, but then there's unbelievable mistakes as well. And he is still a problem as much as he's a problem solver for United. And you contrast that with what Guardiola did when he took over City. Joe Hart was a favourite. You know, he'd done well. He'd won a Premier League title there. He got axed. It didn't matter for anything. It didn't count for anything. Guardiola wanted a goalkeeper who was aligned with his style of play. It didn't go right the first time when he got Claudio Bravo and Willie Caballero, but then he did strike gold with Edison, who what was it, 5, 6 Premier League titles he's won now, could have a treble by next week. And I do think that on the day the goalkeepers sort of matched and mirrored their team's entire philosophy. Ortega was someone who was just calm, composed, never really looked too flustered on the ball, and De Gea was as erratic as United have been this season. He is a goalkeeper who almost mirrors United of last season. That he's got moments. There'll be moments he makes incredible saves, but there's still those moments where he collapses and capitulates as well. And it was a shame that the final was maybe known for De Gea's sort of downfall, because I think regardless of that, United did well to sort of weather the storm early on to make sure they didn't concede more than one in the opening exchanges, because as Samuel said at the weekend, I think he put in his match blog, probably his match piece as well. In United's previous 3 defeats to City, they had conceded in the opening 10 minutes. I think they conceded 2-4 and was it 6 on those occasions.
Yeah.
This time, they still went in level. They only conceded 1 in the first half. They deserve credit for the changes they've made, that they didn't collapse, that they had something to play for. But other than the penalty, and there was a few half chances towards the end, you had that Varane volley from a corner. United hardly laid a glove on City. City didn't play particularly well, and they were still very comfortable. So for me, I think it was just sort of a showcase of some of the good things that I've done. The fact that they had the spirit, that they didn't get thrashed, but they are still a team who are running on empty. They've played so many games this season, and ultimately there was a gulf in quality on the pitch in terms of the personnel that was very apparent.
Huge gulf in quality, and we'll get into that in a moment. I mean, with De Gea, you make mistakes like that. Obviously, City were in control, and they were probably always going to get a winner in that second half. You felt, because that was their dominance in the game. But if he doesn't make that mistake, you've got a chance, don't you? You can take the extra time, perhaps. And to be fair, when you look at the bench, and we talk about that gulf in quality, City would probably assert even more in extra time because they're just that far ahead. They've got the quality in that squad. I mean, they brought on Ake, Laporte and Foden, and United brought on Weghorst and McTominay, Garnacho. To be fair to Garnacho, he looked really good, didn't he, when he came on? He was sharp, he was direct, and we'll discuss Sancho as well, because I don't think he did enough again, Rich, for me, on Saturday afternoon. We'll keep coming on this podcast. I think it was me and you, actually, when we really got into him last time, as it happened. And this is now his second season. He's obviously had his personal troubles in the winter, but he's come back. He's within the right environment now, and he's still not delivering, really. And I thought his performance was quite concerning. He was quite anonymous, and I don't think he looked right from the very get-go, from the first whistle. I know there was footage of him, Sir Alex Ferguson's greeting the players. I don't know if you saw it, Rich, when they're coming out. And I'm not saying he ignored Sir Alex Ferguson intentionally, because he definitely didn't. But maybe he was just a bit jaded, and his mind was, perhaps not in the right place. And I don't know if you agree, but I felt he was shying away from that ball, and it kind of hints at a lack of confidence. And we're looking at Sancho now. They paid almost 73 million for him. And he's become a bit of a problem, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they persevered with him to solve those right wing issues, and he's still, next season might be third choice on the right wing if Ahmad comes back from loan and impresses this summer. Anthony, already Ten Hag's man in that position, and you contrast him and Garnacho at the weekend.
It doesn't look good that Garnacho's come into the team and surpassed him, has it, really?
In half an hour, he offered more than Sancho did in 80 minutes. And I'd also contrast and say that Garnacho has played 36 times for the first team. He's done more in that than Sancho has in his 79 appearances across 2 seasons. I mean, it's only a year ago that Garnacho scored a brace in the FA Youth Cup final, and now United were relying on him to try and win them the FA Cup final as well. And they're contrasting players. I think the likes of Anthony and Sancho are quite methodical and a bit more considered in their approach play. Garnacho is fearless. He wants to get on the ball. He wants to drive forward. He wants to make something happen. We saw the good and the bad of that, really. It's refreshing to see in a game like that, because United need to go for the jugular. They need to be direct, and their wingers were just too, taking their time. They had to have some urgency, and they didn't have any. Garnacho got on the ball 10 minutes after he came on. He cut inside, curled one just right of the far post. Towards the end, the Varane header that hit the bar and McTominay's rebound that went over the bar, that came from Garnacho's cross into the box. But then in the 93rd minute, Garnacho got the ball on the left. He rushed across, it went over everyone and trickled out of play. He's still a raw player. He's still unfinished himself, but he's at least showing signs of promise. He's showing reason for United to stick with him. Whereas Sancho, what do you do with him? He's not good enough on the right. He's not good enough on the left, because Rashford and Garnacho both play there. As an attacking midfielder, is he good enough there? I don't think so. You've got Fernandes there. You've got Eriksen could play there. Mason Mount could play there if he signs. Van der Beek could play there. So where's his role?
That's too far, Rich. Come on, we're not making jokes.
Yeah.
Van der Beek.
Exactly. But they're probably on the same level. They've probably done about as much in a United shirt as one another. Sancho's, what's Sancho's highlight? He scored against Liverpool, didn't he, early in the season, which was a well-taken goal. And other than that, he scored a consolation goal in a derby defeat at the Etihad. He's had little moments. He's had good interplays, had good goals, but there's not enough return there for your 73 million.
Yeah, he's had 7 goals and 3 assists this season, and that's just not good enough, really, is it? The whole attacking output, I mean, he's not been the only one guilty of that, certainly.
And like you said as well, that he's also had that year to settle, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You can give him the mitigation and say there's been a lot of upheaval. He's not coming to United side or a club that was really good for him to settle into. The manager who signed him was sacked 3-4 months afterwards, and United then spend loads of money on Anthony, who plays in the same position last summer, but he's just not done enough personally either, and he's had that time off. You would have expected Ten Hag to be the perfect manager to bring the best out of him, and it's still not happened. And I know Samuel wrote earlier in the season that Ten Hag would start to lose patience with Sancho. I think most fans have now as well, and you've got to wonder what the future holds for him, because if you're United and a reasonable offer came in for him this summer, you'd have to sell, because why not? He's just not done enough, and they've got better players in his position already.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrone was talking about the other week when we were kind of thinking what offer could come in for Sancho. I mean, fee-wise, I'm not even sure what would be offered for him at the moment. 40 million, would the team invest 40 million?
40 million would be top. You can maybe get
in that kind
30,
of region. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, 7 goals, 3
add-ons.
assists. It's been really poor. I mean, if you look at it, obviously it's 2 seasons combined together, and his position was, you've just been talking about there, Rich. I mean, we don't know whether he's a left winger, he's a central attacking midfielder, or whether he was a right winger. I mean, he was signed to play on the right. That's what he was brought to the club. And then, ironically, he started to play on the left, and he delivered his best performances on the left. But you've got Garnacho and Rashford on that side now. Anthony is obviously on the right, and you just cannot see him playing through the middle. And he has these kind of moments. I mean, you mentioned his goals there, and his goal against Tottenham more recently was superb. It was really well taken, rifled into the bottom corner. And you keep on seeing these kind of goals, and you think, right, come on, Sancho, kick on from here. Sustained performances, produce some consistency, and he's just not doing it, isn't he? It's a real shame, because when he was at Dortmund, we all watched him, and everyone wanted to sign him. He's one of the most exciting wingers in Europe, and I thought it was a bit of a coup to sign him for that much anyway, 73 million from Dortmund. I think next season, Rich, it's probably going to be his last at the club if more of this keeps on happening, because he's no longer got the excuses. As we said, you've had the first season, you've been given the benefit of the doubt, but it's really now time to deliver, and he hasn't. So next year, I mean, he's probably earned that by default, really, not on merit, but it feels like it will be his last year if he doesn't kick on and perform at least in the early stage of next season anyways.
Of course, last pre-season he was good. United's front three, he looked really fluid. Rashford, Sancho, Marshall, and you wondered what might have laid ahead. And again, maybe there's a bit of mitigation there, that if United do sign a proper striker this summer, they've got someone who's that focal point, someone that they can get a camaraderie with, someone that they can start working alongside, getting balls into the box, be on the same wavelength, and it can bring out the best in your wide men. So I think that, like you said there is still mitigation that Ten Hag might and can keep him around and say he's worth one more season. And pre-season is always going to be a chance for everyone to have a clean slate, for them to get a fresh chance. So you can also see why United might stick with him, but if we're having the same conversation next year, then something's gone horribly wrong again, and then there's no excuses. He has to go. I think that's just the problem for United, isn't it? That for all the progress they've made this past year, and that's been clear to see, the foundations have been laid, there's still too many players in this team who have question marks next to their names.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's 7 or 8 players that really need to leave and move on, and whether they'll get permanent deals for those is another matter. You've got players come back on loan, Eric Bailly, Alex Telles that needs to go. I mean, the squad does need a clear out. And I guess, to be fair, that's what I kind of feel after watching this season. It's been a great season overall, and it's going to take time. We said that at the start of the year. Rebuilds will take time, and he will get it right eventually. And he's proven that he's the right man, really, this year, hasn't he? He's shown enough in the games and what he's done, and top 4, 2 cup finals, a League Cup win, obviously return to the Champions League. So on the whole, Rich, despite ending the season like this, and it's obviously defeat at Wembley is the worst feeling in football, especially at the hands of your rivals, but it's been a positive campaign nonetheless.
Yeah, you've got to look at it and take a step back to where we were last summer, and United were atrocious for the second half of the previous campaign under Ralph Rangnick. And if you go back to last summer and then you look at the first 2 games of the season as well, United knew a good season would have been to qualify for the Champions League, and then, if possible, winning a trophy. They'd had all that basically done by late February, early March. I know United
season peaked then, didn't it? Ironically, the end of February.
Well, they struggled to get over the line for top 4, but it never really looked in too much doubt, because the chasing pack would have had to find form that was just never going to happen, and United would have had to have an even bigger collapse. I know they barely managed it, but they still did manage it. So United's expectations then went up a little bit. They went up a notch due to their own sort of relative success because they had won a trophy and they basically got top four boxed off. So, it's hard to argue that there's anything other than a success really in that regard. And I know it's not success compared to what they were getting under Sir Alex Ferguson and the old expectations of this club, but it's about stepping stones and it's about this transition. And United are at a similar stage now as they've been under lots of previous managers where you think they might have come good and it could still all unravel yet. So there's still a lot of work to be done. But if you look at the January window, for example, I know United only managed to get Butland, Sabitzer, and Weghorst. They were going around the bargain bucket, weren't they? They weren't getting players that were going to have a long-term future at the club. But even if United had signed an elite striker in January, or they'd signed a top midfielder in January, someone that they really did want, would their expectations have changed that much? No one would have expected them to win the league. I know there was that premature talk of a quadruple, which was absolutely ridiculous because United were never properly in the title race. But even if United had spent big in January, what would we have expected more? One more trophy? Maybe they would have won the FA Cup, they would have won the Europa League. They've still done very well with what they've got and how far they've come. Ten Hag's managed to implement a style of play, he's stamped his authority. He's got lots of players singing off the same hymn sheet. The foundations are there, they just need to build upon them. And I think when you take a step back and look at how far they've come in the past year, it was a season of relative success.
100%, and I think that's all what the supporters felt. It's the silver lining, isn't it? I guess when you're leaving Wembley and you're going down Wembley Way and you return to Manchester on coaches, not trains, because it was a pain to get back, wasn't it? But that definitely is the silver lining, anyways. Rich, we'll leave it there for part one. We'll be back in a moment for part two. If we continue to look at some individual performances then, Rich, I thought it was mentioning Christian Eriksen, who was the first to be substituted off again. And I was looking at him for my morning piece, actually, and he's made 13 starts in the Premier League in 2023, so obviously since the turn of the new year. Can you guess how many games he's been substituted often out of 13?
Out of 13?
So he's started 13 games in 2023 in the league. How many of those games has he not played a full 90 minutes in?
10?
Yeah, he's only not played in one.
Really?
He's only substituted, against Arsenal. He's only played a full game against Arsenal in January, obviously the 3-2 defeat at the Emirates, which I think that just shows you really. He's getting subbed off practically in every game. I didn't delve into the other competitions, obviously, for that. I just thought it was worth looking in the league. But it looks at the wider point, really, when he's looking a bit tired now, isn't he? He's looking a bit leggy in games. And it wasn't really a surprise to see him brought off first in the final, although Sancho was probably a prime candidate, but Ten Hag brought Eriksen off, didn't he? And I guess that's because he just can't press with the ferocity that's needed in this side.
No, and he is just running on empty. And again, I think that comes down to maybe naivety on United's part. When he was available last summer and there was lots of top teams looking at him, I think there was always going to be the mitigation of, right, sign Eriksen, he's such a good player. He's magnificent on the ball. He's effortless. He's a joy to watch. But you need to keep him fit. He needs to be a supplementary option in the squad. You can't rely on him every single week to be playing as much as he was. And United paid the price for it in the first half of the season. They were so over-reliant on Eriksen. They weren't resting him when they needed to. They didn't really have any other options to bring on for him in games. And it's just caught up with them in the end. And I think it has been a valuable lesson learned that yes, United have played 62 games this season. It's unprecedented. We've had the World Cup as well. There will never be a season as demanding as the one we've just seen. But United still are slightly culpable for not handling their squad a bit better. Ten Hag has a lot of options we've not always seen in the season. You look back at the game he got injured in, Reading at home in the FA Cup. Did he really need to be playing in that game? United are sort of, they're culpable to a degree, I think. And I think as the season gone on, Ten Hag's understood it a little bit better. But
the problem is there's a lack of depth, isn't it? That's the problem. We're just talking about City's bench. You look at the options Guardiola has. And Ten Hag just doesn't really have that depth at his disposal.
But you'd also maybe argue that some of those players that City have, they're good because Guardiola's put the trust in them, he's put the faith in them, he's made them good. There seems to be a point every summer where a player's completely written off at Man City and you think they never will play for them again, and then they turn out to be one of their key players for the upcoming campaign. Bernardo Silva was going to leave at one point. Gundogan looked
Mahrez as well was wrote
out
off
of at
as
one
well.
point. Mahrez, it's easy to say, oh, they play for City, so they've got better depth. But United, again, this is going to sound ridiculous, but Sancho should be able to be as good as Mahrez. I'm not trying to be ridiculous here. Like, United spent £73 million on him. United's depth should be better. I'm not sure if that's down to just bad recruitment or they've just not got confidence or man management, but you can't. I think it's natural why people do look at City and say their squad depth's enviable, but United have spent a lot of money and they've got a lot of options. It's just they're not trusted and maybe just haven't been the right fit for the right time. You look at the entire makeup of the squad, though. Ten Hag is still picking up the pieces for the mistakes made in the past, and again, this summer is just going to be one of him trying to stamp his authority on the pitch, really, and getting the players that he does trust.
We said in the lead up to this on last week's podcast that there was probably going to be some potential farewells or some last appearances. I mean, Maguire didn't get on in the end, but it could potentially be his last appearance for the club or last involvement, really. Fred as well, Rich, obviously a candidate for that. He played. I'm interested to get your thoughts on his performance because he got some criticism, and don't get us wrong, I didn't think he was fantastic, but I don't think he had a terrible game. It was very Fred. He did what he does. He had energy, put himself about. He was very, very lucky not to be carded until I think it was the 80th minute or something ridiculous. He made a lot of fouls, but I don't think he was terrible as some people suggested.
I think there's always going to be some players who, when they play badly, their performances are sort of jumped upon more than others. I mean, like you said there, I think Fred was bad, but Eriksen was just as bad. Sancho was just as bad. Rashford was bad.
I mean, you can count. Yeah, it's easier to name the few players that had a good game, isn't it? There was only a few.
Exactly.
Really.
So
Wan-Bissaka stood up. Fernandes stood up.
Yeah, I think Wan-Bissaka was probably my man of the match.
Yeah, it was really good.
But like I said, I think the fact that we know that Fred could leave this summer now, in the proposed move maybe to Fulham that's being engineered behind the scene, that could happen if an appropriate offer comes in for all parties. And I'd obviously want to rejuvenate their midfield with younger players, Mason Mount primarily the target there. I think that, Fred sort of just epitomises what's wrong with this United team. He's a player who should have been sold previously, but they've kept on having to use him, really. The weird thing is, though, Fred is the only outfield player who was involved in every single United squad this season. 62 matchday squads, Fred was in every single one. David De Gea, the only
It's like Dominic Boo's picking the team, Rich, with his
I know, exactly.
His sang Fred
shirt. If Dominic Boo was picking the team, he'd be the captain and he'd be taking penalties.
Yeah.
The thing is there that he's got a use. He's a squad player. He admits he's the piano carrier, but there has to come a time where he moves on for the sake of his own career, really. He said he wants to be important. He wants to play a key role at a football club. And at United, he's only ever going to be a backup player, really. The other issue, I think, is that United maybe latch on. We talk about them being so nostalgia driven and they only maybe see the good in players sometimes. You look at Fred, 62 matchday squads this season. You can think of his good performances on one hand, really, can't you? Tottenham at home, he was excellent. Barcelona, he was brilliant. Man City at home, he was amazing. And it's almost like when you select your team, you're like, well, here's 3 games where he's been good, and you overlook 10 where he's been anonymous or not really done much or given the ball away and made you pull your hair out. And I think that's similar to the David De Gea situation, is that when you discuss him, it's so easy to talk about all the saves, but think of all the mistakes. Think of all those goals he's let in, all those poor kicks, all those errors that he's made. And you can sometimes just be too focused on the good. And I think United are a bit too rose-tinted when they look at Fred, that it was inevitable he was going to start because of the options United had and the fact that they knew they were going to have to try and do a job on City and try and nullify someone like Kevin De Bruyne. Of course, the game plan goes out the window after 12 seconds. Fred was always going to start, but this was the latest reminder that United have sort of managed to get every ounce of potential out of him. We've seen how good he could be for United, and even at his best, he's not been good enough. It's been too few and far between. He's been a good servant to the club. Fans will still like him. He's hard working. He's got the right mentality. He's a good guy. He loves playing for Man United.
So you're telling me that when he retires, he'll come back and he'll have a testimonial? I'm not sure they'll sell many tickets.
Or something. Yeah.
Fred's testimonial, could you imagine?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. United just need to be ruthless. And again, if we're going to look at City, I think the more apparent comparison is that when a player's not got used to City anymore, they bin them off. United reward them with a new contract. That has to change this year. It has to change. And I think Fred's exit would be a signal that times are changing.
I mean, that kind of perfectly leads us into De Gea again. I felt we kind of glossed over him a bit at the start. I am always cautious of wary of talking about De Gea because it kind of rumbles on sometimes on a podcast. I think the other week we talked about him for 20 minutes after I think it was after the Sevilla game. So we're not going to do that today. But obviously he's expected to sign a new deal, Rich, and I just feel that's just going to hold the club back. I don't understand it. I don't think it makes any sense at all. I think if you've got this rebuild that Ten Hag's trying to do, and he's got this style of play that he wants to implement and that he's trying to implement, and to be fair, that he has done. But De Gea does not align with that. He just doesn't. He's poor at the back. His distribution's very, very disappointing, to say the least. His presence in the box, it lacks. I think there was a cross. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Bernardo Silva. Ake just was it? No, it was Kanji. Just missed it. I don't know if you remember, Richie. I think it was in the second half. And it flashed across the 6-yard box, and City should have scored and killed the game with that, but the chance went begging. I think if you have another goalkeeper in, I think he claims that and comes out, and I think Cornaz, he's guilty of that as well. For me, it's time to move on, and I just think it's nonsensical, really, this extension. So, I mean, what kind of camp are you in? Because I'm seeing a lot of people, I think opinions changed as the season's gone on, and he's made more errors, and people have kind of said, look, we can get away with having another season with De Gea in between the sticks and prioritise other positions, but I feel that the way the months have gone on, it's become more of a pressing priority now, isn't it, really, as we approach the summer?
I agree. Yeah, I think this is the opportunity now where you've either got to cash in or commit to him, haven't you, really? This is the perfect chance to have that sort of clean break from him. And, we understand that this offer of a new contract is on reduced terms.
I mean, that's an admission of his decline, though, isn't it, as well? Even giving him...
Exactly. You're admitting that this asset isn't what it used to be. So why are you keeping him around? No other team would do that. And again, Pep Guardiola got rid of Joe Hart because he wasn't fully aligned with the type of goalkeeper he wanted. United, no matter what happens, if United keep De Gea around and Ten Hag's already warned him that he might not be first choice next season, what good is that doing? You've got someone who thinks he should be starting every game, then on the bench, which could disrupt the dressing room. I know he's an excellent pro and he's offered so much to the club, but it's just living a lie almost. He knows he's not good enough to be United's number one long term. United know that, but yet they're going to try and offer him terms, and he's not going to change the type of goalkeeper he is. Next season, it'll be the same stories. There'll be games where he wins United points. He'll make incredible saves like he always does. There's got to be games where he costs them the points, where he makes inexcusable mistakes, and we have the same repetitive conversations.
Rewriting and saying,
doing
the same podcasts, yeah.
You might as well just write your piece now because you know it's going to happen. And yeah, for me, it makes no sense whatsoever. You've got backup goalkeepers there. How often do you see the number 2 used anyway this season? United brought Butland in January. He's not made his debut for the club. You had Dubravka in. You've had Heaton there. I know you've always got to be careful in case something bad happens, but we've seen with Arsenal, when Leno got that injury, it looked like the end of the world. Emi Martinez's career changed in that moment, and he proved he was good enough. I think sometimes you can worry too much about a backup keeper not being good enough, but they hardly ever get a chance. And for United's point of view, they've still got Dean Henderson, who's injured at the moment.
That's what I was going to come on to Henderson.
He was poor at Forest, but he would only maybe need a moment. Surely it makes more sense to keep Henderson around as the backup and to get rid of De Gea. I know Henderson feels that he should have more of an opportunity and get chances to play, but after the season he's had, I think that argument's gone out the window a bit. For me, you just need to get rid of De Gea because otherwise we're going around in circles again.
Yeah, if you keep him, that's the thing. If you keep De Gea, Henderson's coming back to the club, and I've got a feeling. We know what positions Ten Hag's looking at now, and it looks like he's not going to prioritise a goalkeeper. So if you have Henderson and De Gea back at the club, and you have that unhealthy dynamic, that unhealthy goalkeeper situation that we had under Solskjaer, that was not healthy. It didn't work, and the fact that we could see it again in 2023-24, I just think that's absurd. You've got to something's got to give. Surely it's got to be De Gea. He's got to leave and do it while it's convenient. Get him while he's leaving on a free transfer. Make some room on the wage bill. And I think for me, Rich, you've discussed Henderson's season there, and that's completely fair. But I would argue someone was always going to struggle, probably a goalkeeper in that Nottingham Forest team. They've been down the bottom.
And Keylor Navas didn't do particularly well either, did he?
Exactly. And he's a seasoned European goalkeeper, isn't he? Yeah. There has been concerns about Henderson from distance. Actually, there's a graphic come up. I think he conceded the most goals from distance outside the box at one point, and he's definitely not the finished article. But I still believe he's worth a chance because he's not really had a full season, has he? That's the thing. He's not had a consistent shot at it.
No, exactly. And I think also maybe the other thing to consider is that he kind of did burn his bridges last summer when he made those comments, saying that he wasn't given a fair chance, that he deserved more from United. He was always overlooked, and you can see why he was so annoyed, because he was promised by Solskjaer he would be the number one. He obviously got COVID. De Gea took his chance, and the rest, they say, is history. But we're back here again, and De Gea is 32 now. I know he won the Golden Glove. I think the fact De Gea won the Golden Glove kind of tells you all you need to know about that award. It is not for the best goalkeeper in the division, because that is just farcical.
It's quirky, isn't it? That
Spanish goalkeeper.
Yeah, we can sit here and discuss his future so much, and he won the Golden Glove. It's such a quirk of the season.
Yeah, and that it's as much to the fact United got better defensively, and were more coherent as a team at the back that happened. It really was a whole team effort. Players pushing from the front, pressing from the front. Sort of everything that Ten Hag's tried to implement was why they won the Golden Glove. It wasn't just down to De Gea, because he was giving away points, he was giving away goals as much as he was saving them as well. So I think it sort of balanced out in that regard. And for me, I think that's where De Gea is up to at the end of the season. The good and the bad are on a level, which means he's kind of just neutral to this United team. He makes as many mistakes as he makes saves, and I think that if they do want to ever push on and be considered title challengers properly again, they need to have a goalkeeper who is in line with Ten Hag's style of play, who sets the tone for everything that they do. And at the weekend, Ortega set the tone for everything City were doing, and De Gea set the tone for everything United were doing, and that was doing it badly most of the time, rushing it, making erratic decisions, looking a bit flustered, and it has that impact on the whole team. So, yeah, again, just to answer you, for me, I think De Gea has to go. I think otherwise you just perpetuate in this problem.
Yeah, I think everyone with a level head is in agreement with that now, to be fair. But before we end this segment, Rich, I thought quickly we'd talk about the captaincy, because I think Fernandes deserves immense credit this season, actually. I had my doubts about him. Captain-wise, obviously he's a phenomenal player, but whether he could actually wear the armband, whether he was the right man, the role model, you see his petulance on the pitch, his complaining to the referees, etc. But I think he's led the team so well this season. Obviously, Maguire has hardly played. He's just made 8 league starts, and there was a moment at the end of the game when Maguire gave Fernandes permission, almost say permission loosely, to lead the team up the steps to collect their runners-up medals, and it almost felt like an official changing of the guard to me. Rich, do you think in somehow we could see a change, even if Maguire stays? Do you think we could see an official change of captaincy? Do you think that's possible? I mean, not that it really matters, because Fernandes has been a de facto captain, hasn't he? He's been the genuine leader in that dressing room.
Do you think it would have been the same way around if they'd won the cup? Do you think Maguire would be saying, you go first,
Definitely
you go first? So, I think everyone knows Bruno Fernandes is the United captain already. Everyone knows that. I think he's been referred to that in comments as well this season by teammates, and maybe even by Ten Hag. Maybe you can say it's a slip of the tongue, but I think everyone knows that your captain has to be playing. You sometimes get these quirks at clubs where you have a sort of off-field captain and an on-field captain as well, and I just don't think that's the case. Everyone knows that Bruno Fernandes is the main man for United. He's led by example again. Fantastic season for him personally, goals and assists, but he's also been even more important to the United side. He's been superb in whichever position he's played. We talk about Bruno Fernandes starting the cup final on the right because that's what his team needed. He is just sort of selfless to this team. He plays through the middle. He can go drop deeper. He will just play wherever he is needed to in this United team. And he, again at Wembley, like I said, there's moments he was on the right, there's moments he was in the middle, there's moments he was deeper. He is just the embodiment of everything United need to be. And he's had his moments. He's been petulant. You think about the Liverpool game, which was just unacceptable and not what you want from United captain. But there's been so many games where he's dragged his team through it. He's just done whatever it takes for United to be the best team that they can be. And I think everyone's in agreement that he's done enough this season to be the captain and deserves to be as well. You want someone who not only has the passion, who's vocal, but is a very good player as well. He leads by example, not just with his mouth, but with his feet. And I think that he's done it again this season. He's stepped up to be counted. He's adapted his game under Ten Hag. He looked like an awkward fit under Erik Ten Hag, but it says so much that even under this new manager who prefers a more methodical and controlled style of play, he still cherishes what Bruno Fernandes brings, those unique skill sets, his eye for goal, his creativity. Yes, he takes risks. Yes, he tries Hollywood passes. Yes, he annoys you, but he also wins your games.
You could arguably say it was his finest season, actually, Rich. You could make a case for that. Obviously, in terms of goals and assists, he's had fewer, but a fantastic season. I guess we'll say, Rich, chapeau, Bruno Fernandes. Hats off to Bruno Fernandes because he's had a fantastic season. We'll leave it there for part 2, and we'll be back in a moment for part 3. So Rich, obviously going into the summer now, Manchester Derby in the FA Cup final behind us. We've talked about a lot this season, I guess. It's, as we said, a very good season on the whole. But if we look at where we really need to strengthen and where United need to improve next season, if you had to narrow it down to 3 positions, I had this conversation on the podcast the other week. I guess, I'm going to say it for years, it's going to be a striker, a number 6 and a goalkeeper. And if I name those positions, what kind of players would come into your head? Because there's names floating around at the moment. There's certain players that United are interested in. I personally think Mount would be quite a good addition. I think we discussed Eriksen there and his lack of legs. I mean, Mount would really give you some energy in that midfield, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think you've got to just look at the spine of the team, and I agree with you that fans need to be a bit realistic. I saw one fan tweet like a next season's lineup piece, graphic on
Jude Bellingham, Erling Haaland.
It was basically Kane, Bellingham, and like Diogo Costa or something. I was like, okay, you need to tamper them down a bit. There's lots of mitigation. We know for a fact United need to sell players for FFP to balance the books and just to have a bigger budget than they're currently planning for. You've got the ownership issue. United still can't really fix on a budget and say this is what we've got to spend because we just don't know at the moment. We don't know when it's going to be signed off. We don't even know who the next owners of the club potentially are going to be. So,
Rich, can I just probably worth asking you now because you were down in the mix zone, and just before I forget about this, but Avram Glazer walked past you, didn't he? And can you just touch on that a bit and tell people that might have not saw the clip?
Yeah, so basically after the match we headed down to the Wembley mix zone. Samuel was in the press conference, I went down to the mix zone in the anticipation that United would make an early exit from Wembley, which turned out to be the case. The last United player to leave was Varane, and he left as sort of 3 City players were speaking to the press and showing off their winners' medals. And the first United figure I saw anyway to leave the club to leave the stadium was Avram Glazer. He strode straight out of the Wembley mix zone. I'd say maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes after full time, after we sort of digested the scenes of the trophy lift and went down, and he was asked questions as he walked through the mix zone. The question was, why are you not speaking to the fans? Don't the fans deserve to know what's happening with the takeover? He didn't even really so much bat an eyelid or look over. He just walked straight out of the stadium. And I think that's what's so annoying for United fans is they were given this promise there would be more transparency, there would be more dialogue between the owners and the supporters. And I know there's delicate issues involved in a takeover, particularly United being on the stock market. There's certain things you can say that can really affect the way the club's ran, and you can't be as transparent as you want to be. But it's the lack of any update, the lack of, just a hollow club statement saying, this is where we're up to. It's not gone according to plan so far, but rest assured, we're still considering external investment. We're still planning to sell the club. Something like that doesn't really tell you much would still be far more than they've done, or maybe ever will do as United owners, just to keep the fans. United fans know that the Glazers don't care about them and don't have the club's best interest at heart. But you can at least pretend you do. You can at least put a statement out. You can at least give them some sort of update. Surely, even from just the most sort of bad owners, surely you can be that sort of self-aware that you want to try and have a bit of a PR campaign and try and at least make efforts and reconciliate a little bit. I know they burnt the bridges a long time ago, but surely just try and do something. Speak to someone, put out a statement so you're not getting harassed in mix zones, so you're not getting harassed outside your house. At least have some dialogue. Put a statement out there. Just tell them what's happening. Tell them what
Ryan
the new
Reynolds
timeline
wouldn't
might
ignore
be.
someone, would he, Rich? If Ryan Reynolds was walking in the mix,
he'd probably be DMing us. Although he didn't reply to my message on Saturday when I asked him if I wanted to go for a pint after the game. So he'll be in my bad books for right now. Maybe he is a bad owner. But I think that it's easier said than done. You can understand maybe why they don't do it, but from my point of view, you could avoid lots of this having to happen if there was just, like I said, a hollow statement, just something saying, this is where we're up to with the sales process. This is when we're still looking into sale. Just 2 sentences like that. And you've at least given something. You've at least had a dialogue. You've at least given the fans an update. And because they don't, the longer it goes on, the more they will get sort of harassed by journalists in mix zones and get asked these awkward questions when they're out and about, because there's no other communication towards the fans.
It's very on brand, not speaking. Ignoring a question, wasn't it, from the Glazers? I mean, they announced in November, Rich. It was November they announced the Explorer. which I think the exact words were strategic alternatives for the club. And I mean, this process now has been going on for 7 months, and it's just so frustrating, especially for supporters now coming into the summer. You think, right, we want a bit of, we want to know when we'll lie, basically, where the land lies. What the context is going into the summer, how much money Ten Hag's going to have to spend.
Your question was who should United sign this summer, and again, it's gone straight back to takeover. And it's gone back to
I felt like, it's definitely worth mentioning it on that segment
but that's the whole point, isn't it? That even when we're writing pieces, and we'll be writing a lot this summer, won't we? But that is the elephant in the room. Everything's linked back to it. That's the core of this. It's at the nucleus that is the overriding factor. Because if United did get new owners, maybe they could go out and buy the real top targets they wanted to. But until that happens, we can't say for certain. And it is interesting that Mason Mount's being pursued, Rasmus Højlund's being pursued, regardless of this sort of uncertainty over the takeover and whoever might be in charge heading into next season. So it says a lot that Ten Hag does really want these players, regardless of what the budget could be. And I think that's promising that he's got these players and could still get these players regardless of what happens, that he sees integral to the next stage of the rebuild. And he laid the solid foundations. I still think it's going to take 2, 3, maybe in 4 transfer windows before we finally say that is a Ten Hag squad from sort of top to bottom. Of course, there's going to be players he has to sort of adapt to that weren't initially in his thinking and do a bit of tinkering here and there. But you add someone like Mount, you get a striker in. I think Rasmus Højlund would be an interesting one. I can't even pretend to say I've seen enough of him. Or that
I said that to Liam the other day. I mean, I've watched a bit of him, but I've not watched loads of him. I'll just put my hands up.
His name's a bit like Haaland. He's from, he's from Denmark. He scored loads of goals for Atlanta, didn't he? Came from Sturm Graz. There's a similar sort of pathway there, so he must be good. His name begins with H, ends with D. That's enough for some fans, isn't it? But Mason Mount and him would be a start. It would certainly be an improvement on what they've got already. And then, like I said, the goalkeeper as well. The only goalkeeper I've seen enough of would probably be Diogo Costa, seen him at the World Cup and seen what he can do as well. But is he the right choice for United? Still not 100% sure on that. And again, with this uncertainty of the takeover, it's so important that United actually managed to sell players and balance the books a bit.
I mean, as was said before, there's going to need at least 8 players, you'd say, that would hopefully be sold, and players come back on loan. It's interesting when you see supporters discuss it on social media and they kind of try to balance the books themselves and they add up how much money they'd possibly get from sales. And I sometimes laugh. I saw someone say the other day they get 50 million for Alex Telles. Considering they signed him for that and he's going into the last year of his contract, he's a couple of years older, I don't think they're going to get that money for Alex Telles. Anyway, it's definitely going to be a bit of a loss made. If we talk about realistic signings, Rich, you touched upon it there. I mean, Harry Kane, for me, I've said on this podcast a good few times, he'd be the perfect signing. He's a proven goal scorer. He's got 30 goals this season, which I'd actually argue is more of an achievement than Haaland scoring. I think it was 36 or 35 in that struggling 36. Tottenham. In that struggling Tottenham team, the amount of chances City make is just incredible. And Kane's had to fight his way in that team single-handedly, really, and he's been scoring for fun still. But obviously the news came out this week, Rich. Karim Benzema off to Saudi Arabia, it looks like, or it might be official by the time this podcast is released, and that's going to be a challenge in itself, because if Real Madrid are on the market, it's sometimes hard to compete with Real Madrid, isn't it? If United are really wanting to push for Harry Kane, you've obviously got Daniel Levy in the equation, who would much rather sell Harry Kane to Real Madrid away from the Premier League than sell Harry Kane to Manchester United, who are direct rivals.
Yeah, and I suppose it also depends what Kane's motive really is. Would you rather try win the Champions League with Real Madrid, or do you want to try beat Alan Shearer's goal scoring record? I know which I'd rather have in my trophy cabinet.
Shearer's record?
To be honest, and tell by your accent which one you prefer. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? And again, there's so much rivalry in the transfer window. Teams can usurp you, come out of nowhere really to sign a player, hijack deals left, right, and centre. And from United's point of view, they want to get their business done as early as possible this summer. It's really interesting what they do in terms of, I think striker is the most important one there, because Mason Mount, I think get him early is good. He settled then. That's established, that's done. But the striker is interesting, because what if United do go sign someone like Rasmus Højlund, Goncalo Ramos or someone, and then they have loads of money, and then they can go for someone like Kane. You've then got 2 strikers, and you've still got Marshall, you've still got Rashford. It's really interesting. There's so many cogs in all this, and I think that United, from my point of view, they're planning their window with the intention that Tottenham won't sell Harry Kane. But I don't think you can move on to an alternative until you've given that a real good go, because him and Osimhen, and I still think Kane is above Osimhen. I know he's older, but like you said, he's Premier League proven. His achievements this season are ridiculous. On his day, he's not only the best goal scorer in the Premier League, he's probably the
People
best
talk
creator.
about their
He's so good,
injury
isn't he?
records, Rich. I mean, Kane's been injured less, and he's 5 years older as well. And people talk
Yeah.
about, oh, it's a concern with Kane's ankles, but he's actually spent less time on the sidelines than Osimhen.
No, and especially if you look at strikers in recent years, you look at Lewandowski, you look at Benzema, you look at Ronaldo to an extent, what they did until their sort of mid-30s, late 30s as well. That Harry Kane, I know people are saying you'd have to replace him in 2-3 years' time. I think you get 5 years out of him still. I still think he's that good that you get another 5 years out of Harry Kane. And when he's 35, he'll still be a lethal striker in the Premier League. He'll have to adapt his game, might drop a bit deeper, he might not move as much, but he'll still be a bloody good goal scorer, and that's what United need. They need goals, goals, goals. So I just think that until you've completely ruled that one out, until you've made bids, until you've tried everything to try and get him, you can't move on to an alternative for me. And that's the big one for me that's a bit difficult. You can keep your eyes on other players and have these backup options, but I just don't think there's another position on the pitch that you can go for an alternative until you've tried getting the main man there. I think regardless what happens, you have to at least try and get Harry Kane. Until it's fully ruled out, I just don't think they can go for an alternative.
He feels like a Manchester United striker to me as well, Kane. I think he just really would suit that shirt, and it just feels like a proper centre forward.
I can already envisage him tweeting an apology
for missing a penalty in the Manchester derby, or his PR team sending a card. Can you remember all those apologies last season? They stopped around Christmas.
Recently?
Oh,
there was one recently, someone apologised for missing a penalty or something. Was it Salah or someone? I don't want to throw people under the bus.
Do you know what? No, that does ring bells. That does ring bells. When I think of apologies, though, I just think of the team last season, United. Bruno Fernandes last minute, Aston Villa, when he missed the knee and sent the apologies. I actually did a piece on that saying, look, these apologies need to stop. Supporters can see right through them, and eventually they did. So I'll take credit for that, Rich.
Apologise for apologising. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. If we have to end, Rich, and you had to mark the season out of 10, me and Samuel were in agreement for an 8 out of 10 for Ten Hag. I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, I mean, you got to. I think we always.
I think I would have gone 7.
And then 8 if they'd won the FA Cup, probably. But I mean, you've got to cast your mind back, right? Remember when we did the podcast this time last year? I mean, Ten Hag was coming in. You looked at his CV and what he'd achieved, and it was promising, but there was no guarantee that he'd succeed in England. And he's come in. He's kind of restored a bit of discipline. He's freshened up the culture. The players have reacted to his response. So the players have reacted to his response. The players have reacted to what he wants. And with just so gradual improvement, really. There was obviously a difficult start, and there has been bumps in the road. And let's face it, some big bumps. You think about that game against Manchester City in the derby, or the Brentford game, or the Liverpool game at Anfield. But to be fair to the team, after those defeats, they've always seemed to respond. And they've finished the campaign with, as I said before, 2 domestic cup finals, top 4 Champions Leagues come back, and a really promising foundation for next year, I think.
Yeah, and I think as well you've got to put in the mitigation that he's had so many off the field issues to deal with.
He's handled them so well as well. That's the thing.
He's had Ronaldo, leaving the club. He's also had to deal with 62 matches. They had the Europa League playoff against Barcelona that added to it all. They've had so many matches, so much congestion. They've had a World Cup as well. I do think you're right there that he deserves a hell of a lot of credit. But for me, a season where you lose 4-0 to Brentford, you lose 7-0 at Anfield, the way they lost to Sevilla as well, they are still recent memories, those last 2. And I know you can say they've come a long way, but they've still sort of relapsed very late on in the season. They've still had moments. And we can always point towards the fatigue. Again, like I said at the start, I think there's an element of not bad man management, but not using your squad fully. And I know you can say you don't trust them, the players aren't good enough. I totally get that. But there's certain games where you can take your players off earlier when you're winning. There's cup games where you don't have to risk your best players anyway. I think he's learnt on the job, he's done a lot. But for me, yeah, I think a 7 out of 10's where I'm at, because there's been a lot more good than bad, but you can't just overlook the bad for me.
Yeah, it's very fair. I think the first few months of next season are going to tell us a lot. For me, the biggest thing that needs to be improved really is the away form. You look at against better sides, they really have struggled this season. They've been flat track bullies, I guess, against lower quality sides in the Premier League. And also, as you've said, those blips need to really be addressed, don't they? Because they just can't happen. Those harrowing defeats every now and then, especially when you play for a club like Manchester United. It's not really acceptable. But he showed I think, anyways, that he's the right man to iron out. And let's hope we're talking this time next season and there's even more trophies, Rich. Yeah? There might be another few trips to Wembley for you.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's it, isn't it? He said after the FA Cup final that United felt broken, and I suppose the ultimate answer to that is he's proven he can put them back together again. He's proven he can fix this United team. Foundations are there, but like I said, we've been at this point similarly under some previous United managers as well, and this summer is massive. The start of next season is huge as well, and we need to see if he's the real deal or not. Definitely a time for United fans to be positive, though. There's a lot going right for this club. They just might need to hide under a rock for the next month or so if a certain result goes against them this weekend.
Yeah, it's not gonna be good if you're a red with the red persuasion. Anyways, in Manchester, take cover in and about town on Saturday night. I recommend. Rich, what you got planned for this week ahead of that game, the Champions League final? Anything interesting?
Not particularly. No, it is just going to be a case of maybe chasing up a few loose ends, looking at where certain players could be playing next season, and yeah, I suppose it's just a time for reflection, isn't it, really, before we really kick on with the summer window. But watch this space, I suppose. We'll have to maybe get creative with our ideas more so than usual, won't we?
Well, it's definitely quiet at the moment. Well, it seems to be with certain players anyways when you send some contacts out. But no doubt the storm's coming when the window actually opens. So next week or the end of the one after that. It's soon anyways. I think it might be the 11th actually, the transfer window opens. So plenty to get our teeth stuck into across the summer. I'm sure we'll have plenty to write about as usual. And exciting season upcoming anyways. But I don't know about you, Rich, but I'm definitely ready to sleep for the next 2 months after this long year.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a rest, please. I've had a holiday already, but I think you are well overdue a holiday.
I'm looking forward to going to Portugal.
Both away.
Definitely. Yeah. Anyways, we'll leave it there, Rich. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, thank you.
Thanks to listeners as usual. Head across to YouTube, taking over nicely with the subscribers as usual, and head across to Spotify, Apple, etc. All good audio platforms. And in the meantime, have a great week. Take care.